Hey everybody, this is why I can't stand Diablo and its ilk. Diablo clones, Diablo-style hack and slash games, any of those terms works. Just don't call them action role-playing games, because that's just a blatantly false statement. They're not action role-playing games. They're neither about action nor role-playing. In fact, you can't do any role-playing in them. And the action is so basic that you can't even call them action anymore. No, action role-playing games are games like Gothic, or The Witcher, or Mass Effect, or Jade Empire, things like that. Where they're actually role-playing games, and they just happen to have really action-oriented combat systems, and so you feel like you're actually in the action. Well, in Diablo-style games, you're very detached. So, that doesn't really help to begin with, but I can live with being detached. No. My issues with this genre are mostly in its core design. This also applies to games that are not specifically the isometric style that Diablo has. Of course, talking about Borderlands and Borderlands 2, where they're first-person shooters, but they have the same core design philosophy, and it's very painfully obvious when you look at it. And also, when I'm referring to Diablo, stop acting like I'm referring to Diablo 2, because I'm not. If I were referring to Diablo 2, I would refer to Diablo 2. I wouldn't say Diablo. I'm talking about the original Diablo, which is the single most boring game I have ever played. Kind of sad, really. But anyway. Now, these games are really about kleptomania. Now, if you're not sure what a kleptomaniac is, it's basically someone who likes to hoard things. They just need things, and they can't stop acquiring things. And that's really what these games are all about. If you really look at the core design of these games, all it boils down to is kill stuff, get loot. With the emphasis being mostly on the loot. I mean, when you talk about people playing games like Diablo, they don't talk about the combat system so much. They don't talk about the quests they're doing. They don't talk about the storylines or anything like that. What they talk about is that plus 10 greatsword of Azurite Flame plus 3 or something like that they picked up 3 days ago, and now they've picked up something better than that, which they're going to ramble about the next time. The problem with these games is that they're about kleptomania, really, when you boil it down to its core design. But they don't really do it well, because they give you a ton of junk loot. By junk loot, I mean stuff that is not better than what you've got, but you just pick it up and carry it with you anyway, just so you can sell it, or something like that. They give you tons of that. And whenever you get an item that's actually better than something you've got equipped, you're going to equip it. Well, then you're going to come along something along the road that's better than that, and so you're going to equip that. And all of these incremental changes don't really affect your character in any meaningful way. You never really feel like you're advancing in a Diablo-style game. You feel like you're maintaining a status quo the entire time. You come across enemies that are higher level. Well, you're going to start doing less and less damage to them. Or actually, you're not, because they just have much higher hit point ratings. So, guess what? You find this piece of loot. You find a better sword, and that allows you to do more damage. And it basically maintains what you've been doing for the past couple of hours. That's what these games are all about. They are about maintaining a status quo, maintaining tedium, maintaining a grind. And for no real purpose. I mean, you can even compare it to something like Final Fantasy. There is a ton of grinding in games like Final Fantasy, but you're working towards something. There is a max level, and once you hit that max level, you're pretty much unstoppable juggernauts of death. Well, that's not the case in a Diablo-style hack and slash game. You're pretty much an unstoppable juggernaut of death from the very beginning, but you just constantly fight enemies that are on your level, no matter what you're doing. You go deeper into the dungeon. Well, now you're fighting enemies that are tougher, but you're perfectly fine at handling that. And you just keep doing that over and over again. There's never any point in a Diablo-style game where you're either underpowered or overpowered. It's always maintaining a status quo. You're always mowing down hordes and hordes and hordes of completely inconsequential enemies for no particular reason. And just getting tons and tons of junk loot. That's it. That's what these games are all about. Oh, you've got a quest? Guess what? It's the same thing. Almost all of the quests in these games are involving go here, kill thing, get loot. It's boring. I have never understood why people enjoy this. I have never understood why people enjoy picking up some generic, procedurally generated sword, for instance, and then just tossing it aside when they come across the next one that is pretty much the same thing, only with some slightly better stats. You see, when I play a role-playing game, I feel this feeling of accomplishment when I go through. For instance, if I'm playing The Witcher 2, you feel weak at the beginning, because Geralt's not all that tough. At least at the beginning of the game. And as you play the game, you get better at it, and Geralt gets tougher. And by the end, you really do realize what the books say about Geralt, which is that he's a complete badass. Now, you look at the other people compared to him, and obviously he's tougher than most of them. So you already feel kind of powerful. But you're dealing with just ridiculously tough monsters. And when you find a new sword, for instance, it means something. And you might actually be able to use that for a very large swath of the game. Whereas in a Diablo-style game, if you go basically 20 minutes without finding something better than something you've already got equipped, apparently there's something wrong. Because you're supposed to be replacing everything within moments of acquiring it. It's about kleptomania. It's not about anything else. And that's what drives me nuts about these games. Some of them do it better than others, but in the end, it's still all about the grind for more stuff. And that's why I can't stand them. I mean, you even compare it to something like a roguelike, for instance. To some degree, that happens in a roguelike, but even then, you come across something and it may well be far superior to what you had, and it will last you for several floors of the dungeon. And having this item in your possession gives you a fighting chance. Because in a roguelike, the idea is that the game's hard. You're dealing with enemies that are tougher than you. And any edge you can possibly get is going to help you, and you feel better about it. You feel like you've accomplished something by finding that. You go to a game like Gothic. You feel like you've accomplished something when you can actually equip that sword that you've been carrying around for quite a while, but you've never had the stats to be able to use it. And suddenly, you've equipped this sword, and you feel powerful because you're actually powerful. Whereas in Diablo and its ilk, it's basically just, oh, same thing, over and over and over again. I never understood why people enjoy these. I never have. I never will understand why people enjoy them. But I'm frankly tired of people constantly acting like I'm a moron for not enjoying them. Because, frankly, I just don't find the idea of kleptomania actually enjoyable. I mean, I like collections and stuff, but that's something different. There's value in a collection. With regards to Diablo and its ilk, it's disposable. You find something, you dispose of it. There's no value in it. Just my thoughts on the genre, really. I don't really care whether people act like they're role-playing games or not. I mean, it pisses me off, but that's not the real problem here. The real problem here is that these games are all about tedium. They're all about finding junk and then getting rid of the junk in a moment's time. I never understood why that was appealing. So, do me a favor, people. Stop requesting these kinds of games. It really bothers me, because it takes away time from other games. I mean, some games do this too, but that's not really their primary focus, and so it doesn't bother me as much. Like Kingdoms of Amalur, it does this too. It gives you a lot of junk loot, but that's not the focus of the game, and it makes it pretty clear that it's not the focus of the game. So certain games like that don't bother me as much, but when it's these kinds of games where that's really all the focus is, and for almost every single Diablo-style hack-and-slash game that's what the focus is, I can't stand it, and frankly, I don't see how you people can stand it either. Anyway, that was my thoughts on Diablo-style hack-and-slash games and why I can't stand them. Let me know what you think in the comments. I'll catch you guys in later videos.
And then suddenly,